You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
Welcome to the Hot Options Report, your premier source for insight into the fast-moving options market. Each day, we'll track down the products that are dominating the options chains and impacting your trading account. From Apple to VIX and everything in between, if it's lighting up the options tape, then you'll find it on the Hot Options Report. If you're listening to this show, chances are you're pretty serious about options trading. So let me put something on your radar. Public. It's the most cost-effective way to trade options. That's because Public is the only platform that gives you rebates on your options trades. They also have some of the industry's lowest index options fees. Whether you're placing single leg or complex multi-leg trades, every dollar counts. Check out public.com/optionsbrief and discover the most cost-effective way to trade options. Paid for by Public Investing. Full disclosures in podcast description. And now, get ready to scan the tape for the most explosive options activity on the street. It's time for the Hot Options Report.
All right, everybody, that music means it is time to get down to business with your Hot Options Report for Thursday, September 18th. Was it a hot day out there? The day after the Fed gave the market a little bit of a shot in the arm out there? Well, let's go find out, listeners, shall we? Let's kick things off in the land of volatility. Was VIX looking hot today? The answer was, yeah, it was looking decent, but not quite living up to its very lofty ADV. Remember I said before, earlier this week, that when VIX is threatening 1 million contracts a day in the ADV, A, that's very high. B, that's usually a sign of some tumult, some uncertainty floating around out there in the market. VIX isn't usually averaging 1 million contracts a day when things are hunky-dory. And also, that's a very difficult goal to hit, and they didn't quite hit it today. Right around 750,000 contracts coming in VIX land today. The hot option out there in VIX today, we talked about these on our option block program earlier today. It was the D's 14 puts, average price of 11 cents, going up nearly 90,000 times. It was part of what was actually a 1x2. Looks like selling one and buying two farther out, which is absolutely wild stuff out there. So we thought we'd ask you folks, quite simply, this thing's traded quite a bit this morning, 80,000 times, 11 cents. Are you a buyer? Are you sold to you? Want to trade them as part of a spread? And 75% of our audience right now wants to buy these things, and about 12.5% each want to sell them or sell them as part of a spread. So interesting stuff out there in the world of VIX as we keep on rolling to SPY. Was SPY a banger? The answer was explosive. 13.1 million contracts. That's against an ADV of 7.8 million. You might be saying, holy crap, nearly 2x what was going on in SPY. Again, we talked about it earlier this week with some other names popping off. XDiv. When you see that tag on a name, listeners, that means the options market is probably going to be a little bit screwy from a volume perspective, and that is the case out there today. 13.1 million contracts. People always forget that SPY has a dividend, but it does. So look at that number with a bit of a grain of salt. The hot option out there in SPY today, 553,000 of these 663 puts. SPY going out a little bit shy of that, 662.25. So looking decent on those puts. They had an average price of about 70 cents. So pretty close to your break-even level there as we keep on rolling out to the land of the S. Was it a hot day in the S? The answer was yes. 4.5 million contracts going up in the SPX. The hot option in the SPX today, 166,000 of these 66 half calls. The S going out a wee bit shy of that today, 66.31, almost 66.32. So if you paid the average price of $362 for those calls and you held them all the way into the close, which if you're trading 0 day, why are you doing that? But that's a conversation for another day. Then unfortunately, not exactly a banger day for you out there today, listeners. As we keep on rolling out to the Qs, were the Qs having a banger day out there? The answer was yes. 4.75 million contracts going up in the Qs out there today. That's against an ADV of just about 4.15 million. So again, looking spicy out there, but also bear in mind, also going XDiv out there. So that's going to gum up the works. The Qs closing a little bit shy of 600, 595 and about a third. And the hot option out there, the 597 calls going up 301,000 times for an average price of about 65 cents out there, listeners. All right, let's keep on rolling to the single names. We said this on the option block earlier today that it was looking explosive out there earlier today on the single name front. Could they keep that party alive? Could they keep the magic rolling, listeners? That was the question, and the answer coming into the end of the day was it's very hot. Not the hottest we've ever seen, but pretty darn hot. Nearly 900,000 contracts is what it cost you to break into the top 10 today. 891 to be precise. That gets us to our old pal, the Amazonians. Amazon closing a little bit north of 231 out there today. And the hot option out there in Amazon, 58,000 of the 235 calls. Average price for these bad boys, 59 cents, all opening paper today. So you know the deal. If you're buying those, you really need Amazon to go on a tear by tomorrow's close. Can it get there? We'll find out as we keep on rolling to number 9. Another A-Tech name. It's Apple. Giving up the ghost today, selling off a little bit, about $1, right shy of the 238 strike out there. Putting up 903,000 contracts for Apple out there today. So that's a pretty hot day for Apple. And the hot option on a hot day in Apple, 104,000 of the 240 calls. Average price for those bad boys, about 80 cents. So an interesting do, as the kids say. We've been talking about this 240 strike for a while. If you bought those, you got to get pretty darn close to 241 by tomorrow. Today's price action not really doing you any favors out there as we keep on rolling to number 8. It's the monster, a.k.a. MicroStrategy, a.k.a. strategy. Say all that 5 times fast, listeners. Strategy putting up 968,000 contracts on the tape today. So a very hot day out there in good old MSTR. What was the hot option on a hot day? 69,000 of the 340 calls. These are looking pretty good because MicroStrategy closed north of 349 today. So 340s for an average price now. Average price of 14 and a quarter. So that might put that into a little bit more perspective for you out there, listeners. 14 and a quarter. Obviously 340s. You need the stock to keep running all the way through tomorrow's close if you want these bad boys to pay off. But you need a little bit more juice than what we got out there today. But nonetheless, 70,000 of the 340s lighting up the tape out there in the monster today as we keep on rolling to number 7. This is another one, another M name that we've been talking about for a while out here, listeners. This is Mara. If you've been listening to any of our pro content, you know we've been having a good time wheeling away in Mara. If you don't know what any of that means, then by all means, check out the rest of our network. You should be listening to shows like Options Bootcamp and everything else. Mara having a wild day, low of 1738, a high of 19 and a quarter. My goodness, closing 18 and a half today. My 15.5 puts look like a distant memory out there today. Putting up 1.04 million contracts out there in Mara. So absolutely wild stuff out there in Mara today. I'll need to dig in after the close, see exactly what was driving all this action. The hot option out there, 88, almost 90,000 of the 18.5 calls. Average price for these, 40 cents. Seems a little rich right now, but then again, you see we got up to 19 and a quarter today, so that price probably makes a little bit more sense in hindsight there, listeners. As we keep on rolling to number 6, it's our old pal Open. Open's been kind of synonymous with this show ever since we launched. That was right when it broke into the top 10. And it pretty much never left, listeners. Closing today a little bit shy of $10, putting up 1.05 million contracts. So another hot day for Open. And you know, if we're flirting with the 10 handle, what was the hot option out there in Open today? It was 91,000 of the 10 calls. Average price, 55 cents. You know the dance by now, listeners. Got to close 10.55 or above by tomorrow, or at least get there intraday. Give you some time to dump your calls before it floats back down. Would you be a buyer or a seller of those right now, listeners? Open. 10 calls, 55 cents, hanging out right at the 10 strike. So it's pretty much a coin flip as we keep on rolling to Palantir, number 5, 1.18 million contracts on the tape for Palantir today, listeners. So an absolutely banger day out there in Palantir. Palantir closing just a tick shy of 177 today, having quite the range, nearly 179 to the upside, 169.39 to the downside, so nearly a $10 range out there today in Palantir, hence this impressive volume number. What was the hot option on a hot day? It was the 175s going up 108,000 times, listeners. Average price of 230. You might be saying 230, then you see that I got up to 178.80, so that makes a little bit more sense out there, listeners. Right now, if you bought those for that average price and you're still riding them, you're close to break even right now, but you're probably looking for a little bit more upside tomorrow. Wild day out there in Palantir. As we keep on rolling to number 4, listeners, AMD, not great news coming across the tape for them today. Nvidia doing their dance with Intel, not great for their competitor AMD. Closing a little bit shy of 158 today, off about $1.25. And the hot option out there, by the way, 1.27 million contracts on the tape for AMD. And their hot option, the double calls, going up nearly 85,000 times. Average price of $1.85. Again, we started the day and we got up to about 158.77. So hence that price on the double calls. 155. Can we hang out at this level or above by tomorrow's close, listeners? I guess we'll stay tuned to AMD to find out as we keep on rolling to number 3. Yes, I said number 3. Tesla all the way down at number 3. What's going on? What could take the top spot? Stay tuned. A Tesla closing today, $416.85, giving up nearly $10. 901. We were talking earlier today. It was floating around that 420 strike. Actually got up to 432 at one point today. So those 420s we were talking about earlier this week, not looking great, and they were pretty juicy as well. What was the hot option on a hot day in Tesla? Nearly 2.8 million contracts changing hands. It was 163,000 of the 430s. Average price of 444. So again, it looks like a bit of an ouchie right now if you bought those, but we did get up to 432.25, so they were obviously looking a lot better earlier in the session. So if you bought these and you're still riding them, you're hoping for an explosive day in Tesla tomorrow as we keep on rolling to good old Nvidia, listeners. Nvidia, of course, making headlines, acquiring a piece of Intel. So if you're playing along at home, we all own 10% of Intel now. SoftBank owns a piece, and now Nvidia just putting $5 billion into Intel as well. So Intel feeling it, hint, hint, for what could be number 1, but Nvidia all the way down at number 2, closing 176.25, up nearly $6 or 3.5%. We don't usually see the acquirer or the investor in these deals rallying off a massive expenditure, but that's what we're seeing. Intel, or I should say Nvidia, doesn't need an excuse to rally, and it didn't need it today. Putting up nearly 3 million contracts, 2.99 million contracts. What was the hot day out, or I should say, what was the hot option on a hot day in Nvidia? 222,000 of the 180s. Average price for these, 36 cents. So the upside is that you didn't spend much for these. The downside is that these are looking like a dumpster fire right now, listeners. But hey, you got one more session. You got as high as 177.10. So these never really got within spitting distance out there. Looks like a bit of a lottery ticket, maybe a bit of a bridge too far, but we shall see. We got one day to go as we keep on rolling to the number 1 spot. What was dominating the tape on a wild day in the markets post-Fed this week, listeners? Yeah, I alluded to it earlier. It's Intel. Absolutely wild stuff, listeners. $30.57 is where it closed, up 567 or 22.75%. One of the hottest upside days we've seen in Intel in a long time out there. So absolutely wild stuff. This stock was just trading $20 a little over a month ago. So absolutely wild run out there. Post visit to Washington, post all of us buying 10%, post SoftBank coming in, and now, of course, post Nvidia putting $5 billion to work in Intel, putting up 3.15 million contracts in Intel. Gonna go out on a limb and say it's the hottest day in Intel possibly ever. I'd need to go confirm that, listeners. It's been a while since I've done the overall volume tracking out there in Intel, listeners, but absolutely wild stuff. Yeah, the previous high for Intel, at least over the past year or so, was 2.13 million. That was back in February, on February 18th. So 3.15 million, blowing the doors off that. This might very well be the most active day in the history of Intel options. Just absolutely wild stuff. What was the hot option on a hot day in Intel? 136,000 of the 30 puts. Again, folks, trade into the downside out there in Intel, which is kind of wild. We don't normally see a lot of speculative downside, but we did see this recently in Oracle, and it worked out pretty well if they were indeed buying these. These traded for an average price of about 45 cents. So we thought we'd put that out to you folks, listeners. A one-day lottery ticket to the downside in Intel. 30 puts, 90,000 times, average price of around 40 to 45 cents. Are you a buyer or sold to you? And right now, our audience is pretty close to split. 57.1% want to buy them, 42.9% want to sell those bad boys. You'll have a day to find out, listeners, if those are winners or not, but an absolutely explosive day out there in Intel, an explosive day in the markets. Thanks for joining us on the Hot Options Report today. See you back here tomorrow for volatility views, for options oddities for all of our pro members. You want to check that out, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. And then we're back again to wrap up the week with another episode of the Hot Options Report. So we'll see you back here tomorrow. Oh yeah, and stay safe out there, everybody.
Check out public.com/optionsbrief and discover the most cost-effective way to trade options. Paid for by Public Investing. Full disclosures in podcast description.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.